Hi everyone. I get a lot of questions, and one of the more popular questions I've been receiving recently is about the Metaverse, maybe in the wake of the film Free Guy, which is a fantastic movie by the way, and I recommend all of you watch it. In this video, I wanted to do two things. First, I wanted to explain what the Metaverse is and why it's important. Second, how you could potentially benefit from it, whether it's in your career, as a consumer, or even as an investor. So the first point, what is the Metaverse? Well, as I mentioned, if you've seen the film Free Guy, it's essentially that. It's quite a good representation of kind of the ideal end state, or maybe something like Ready Player One, or even The Matrix. Basically, it's an online parallel universe almost, where you can do everything that you do in the real world, you can do there. You can play games, you can buy stuff, e-commerce, you can socialize, all of that stuff, all contained in its own parallel digital universe almost. That's what the Metaverse concept is at its most ideal. Now clearly, it's not just a discrete point. You don't suddenly have the Metaverse. And many games and many platforms already approximate some aspects of the Metaverse. For example, Fortnite, the game, is a little bit like its own Metaverse because in there you trade, there's an e-commerce element, buying the skins and so on, there's a social element, there's a gaming element. So it's already building up that kind of parallel digital world. In a sense, that is also a Metaverse. So there are many shades of grey in between. But that's kind of where people are heading to. And the reason it's important is, well, basically there's a lot of money going into it. $40 billion worth of VC investments already been invested. Epic Games just released another announcement saying they raised $1 billion to explore Metaverse applications. Mark Zuckerberg said that Facebook is now a Metaverse company. And it goes on and on and on. It's a very active area for investment, for R&D development, and a key part of key tech company strategies for the next 5 to 10 years. And so it is going to be very impactful and it will affect your lives. So how do you benefit from it? Like, this is one of those big trends coming down, like big data, AI, and all of this stuff, that if you're in early or if you're in on the right wave, can really benefit you as an individual. Now clearly the first way you can benefit from it is as a pure consumer. It can be for consumers, it might be a very beneficial experience, a more immersive experience, particularly if you get VR hooked up with some of these immersive games. It could be very fun, but I don't really want to talk too much about the consumer experience here because that's somewhat obvious. What I did want to talk about was two other things, and that's kind of the commercial opportunity and the investment opportunity, you could probably say. For those of you who are in business or even looking for jobs, an understanding of the value chain of the Metaverse could be highly beneficial. On the screen now I'm showing a market map, which I won't take credit for. It's by a guy called John Radoff, but effectively it shows the value chain of the Metaverse. The Metaverse is much more than just the entertainment platforms at the end. It's got a whole bunch of stuff that enables it. And so if you look here at this market map, you've got everything from kind of hardware. I know hardware can be things like graphic processors, it can be things like even data centers and servers, it can be things like Oculus headsets that Facebook want to bring into its VR experiences. It involves software, it involves advertising, all of this stuff is in the Metaverse, all of it's required to make the Metaverse work. And so the uptake of these platforms and the growth of these platforms and the investment that you see in things like Fortnite, Epic Games, Tencent and so on will bleed its way down into that value chain and create opportunities across many, many different sectors. At the same time, if you're working for a brand or a company, your marketing, you'll find, your consumer base will be progressively engaged in these Metaverse platforms, and therefore you yourself need an understanding in order to position your brands effectively within the place where the majority of digital socialization and potentially e-commerce might take place in the future. So you can see that just like when the internet came in, when the social media platforms came in, the Metaverse can really change how we do business, but also the opportunities along the value chain. And if you're a job seeker right now, if you're thinking about what your future career could be in, well, this could be a really exciting place to be. And not just in the front-end platforms, you can look across this value chain. All of these companies are going to be involved in the Metaverse. So if it's something that interests you, you don't necessarily have to work for a Tencent, or you don't necessarily have to work for a Facebook to be involved. You can work in other elements here. And so there'll be huge demand for people who understand the technology and so on that is used to underpin the Metaverse, creating huge job opportunities for you guys who are at university or are thinking of going to university. For those of us who are out of university and want to understand what we can do other than just be a consumer, or how it impacts our professional lives, of course, lots of people talk about investing in the Metaverse. Now, I can't and I'm not allowed to dispense investment advice on this channel, so I won't. But I will say this. The most likely scenario for the metaverse will be a series of walled gardens, by which I mean a series of parallel ecosystems that don't necessarily talk to each other. A little bit like the Huawei phone ecosystem and the Apple phone ecosystem didn't talk to each other. They tried to lock you in their own ecosystem and buy all their products. It's likely that a Facebook metaverse will seek to keep you within Facebook. A Tencent metaverse or Epic Games metaverse will seek to keep you within that, of course. Take as much of your data as possible, and it won't be very easy to transfer between them, right? Certainly your avatar kit and all the other stuff that makes a metaverse interesting would not transfer. And therefore, if you want to invest in the front end, or you're looking to benefit from the front end, you really have to pick who you think the winners would be. Now, that may or may not be easy, but if you didn't want to go that route, I think the metaverse offers a very good application of the picks and shovels strategy, which I think generally is a great way of doing investing. Picks and shovels strategy actually historically refers to what happened during an American gold rush. Now, there are lots of people who went prospecting for gold, lots of people invested in gold prospecting companies. Some of them found gold, and those people became very rich, very successful. Some of them didn't find gold, and they lost all their money. But the people that consistently made a lot of money were those who invested in the tools of gold finding, i.e. the people who invested or set up pick companies and shovel companies, because every gold prospector needed to buy them. So as everyone rushed to find gold, the people who got very rich and very wealthy and very successful, the great businesses at that time, were those selling the tools to find gold. And because all gold people needed them, they didn't have to take a bet on whether a particular site was going to find gold or not. So a lower risk investment. Along this value chain, you can probably see there are plenty of examples of picks and shovel type investment. Things like, I don't know, for example, a data center or something, where every metaverse company will need it, but it's not dependent, the use of that service is not dependent on picking a winner from the front end platforms. So that's something to noodle on, something to think about if you wish to gain exposure in that way. In any event, I think to summarize, the metaverse is one of the huge trends that's coming, and it's coming fast. It will impact your life, your professional life most likely, certainly as a consumer. And for those of you who want to take opportunities, those of you seeking jobs, or even just looking at investment, I think it's a worthwhile topic for further investigation.